Hello. Hi. Welcome, everyone, to Keval's Eagle Ceremony. If we could please rise. Thank you so much, Troop. You may proceed.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
You may be seated. And now I will lead us in the invocation. God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as family, friends, leaders, and fellow scouts on the significant day in the life of Keval. Today is a celebration of a journey full of challenges, friendship, struggles, and occasionally just a little bit of fun. Today, we think of all the merit badges earned along the way, the oaths committed to, and the character this young man has developed, and the service to the community he has brought about. Little by little, month by month, and year by year, they were faithful, and we celebrate their faith, commitment, and hard work. So we ask for your blessings on this day of Keval's Eagle Ceremony, his family who supported and encouraged him, and the fellow scouts who helped him along the way. Please bless our scout leaders, Troop 288, and all those who are here physically or in spirit. Continue to walk with Keval as he takes his next steps in becoming the scout and the person you desire him to be. Amen. And now we will have the candle ceremony by fellow scouts from Troop 288.
A scout is trustworthy.
A scout is trustworthy. A scout's honor is to be trusted. If he were to violate his honor by telling a lie, or by cheating, or by not doing exactly a given task, one trusted on his honor, he may be directed to hand over his scout badge.
A scout is loyal.
A scout is loyal. He is loyal to all whom loyalty is due, his scout leader, his home and parents, and his country.
A scout is helpful.
A scout is helpful. He must be prepared at any time to save a life, help injured persons, and share the duties. He must do at least one good turn to somebody every day.
A scout is friendly.
A scout is friendly. He is a friend to all and a brother to every other scout.
A scout is courteous.
A scout is courteous. He is polite to all, especially to women, children, old people, and the weak and helpless. He must not take pay for being helpful or courteous.
A scout is kind.
A scout is kind. He is a friend to animals. He will not kill nor hurt any living creature needlessly, but will strive to save and protect all harmless life.
A scout is obedient.
A scout is obedient. He obeys his parents, scoutmaster, patrol leader, and all others duly constituted authorities.
A scout is cheerful.
A scout is cheerful. He smiles whenever he can. His obedience to order is prompt and cheery. He never shrinks nor grumbles at hardship.
A scout is thrifty.
A scout is thrifty. He does not want only destroy property. He works faithfully, wastes nothing, and makes the best use of his opportunities. He saves his money so that he may pay his own way. Be generous to those in need and helpful to worthy objects. He may work for pay, but not receive tips or for courtesies or good turns.
A scout is brave.
A scout is brave. He has the courage to face danger in spite of fear and to stand up for the right and against the coaxings of friends or the jeers or threats of enemies. And
Scout is clean.
a scout is clean. He keeps clean in body and thought, stands for clean speech, clean sport, clean habitats, and travels with a clean crowd.
A scout is reverent.
A scout is reverent. He is reverent towards God. He is faithful in his religious duties and respects the convicts of others in matters, custom, and religion.
On my honor, I will do my best. To do my duty and guard my country, and to obey the scout law. Count other people at all times. To keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
All right, thank you very much. We will now have 100 Scouts with Mr. Chuck Brooks.
Good evening. Of any 100 boys who become Scouts, it must be confessed that 30 will drop out in their first year. Perhaps this may be regarded as a failure, but later in life, all of these will remember that they had been Scouts and will speak well of the program. Of the 100, only rarely will one ever appear before a juvenile court judge. 12 of the 100 will be from families that belong to no church. Through scouting, these 12 and many of their families will be brought into contact with a church or a religious institution and will continue to be active all their lives. 6 of the 100 will become pastors. Each of the 100 will learn something from scouting. Almost all who will develop hobbies that will add interest throughout the rest of their lives. Approximately half will serve in the military and in varying degrees profit from their scouting training. At least one will use it to save another person's life, and many will credit it with saving their own. 4 of the 100 will reach the Eagle rank, and at least one will later say he valued his Eagle above his college degree. Many will find their future vocation through merit badge work and scouting contacts. 17 of the boys will later become Scout leaders and will give leadership to thousands of additional boys. Only 1 in 4 boys in America will become a Scout, but it is interesting to know that the leaders of this nation in business, religion, and politics, 3 of 44 were Scouts. This story will never end. Like the golden pebble of service dropped into the human sea, it will continue to radiate in ever-widening circles, influencing the characters of the men down through unending time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. We will now have Mr. Aaron Wilsey with the significance of the Eagle.
Good evening. Since the beginning of time, man has used the eagle as a symbol of royalty, power, victory, and valor. The strength and courage of eagles has inspired men through the ages. Ancient man looked upon the eagle as an inveterate enemy of serpents. They saw battle between the sun and clouds as battles between an eagle and a serpent. In India and Babylon, the eagle was the symbol of fire, of wind and storms, and the bringer of immortality. In the golden age of Greece, the eagle was a symbol of victory and supreme spiritual energy. It was the sacred bird of Zeus, the ruler of all gods. The Greeks represented the eagle with its wings outstretched and holding a serpent in its claws. Thus, the eagle represented the triumph of good over evil. In Rome, the eagle was a symbol of Jupiter, the supreme god. The Romans saw the eagle as a symbol of victory. As the Roman legions conquered the world, they marched under the standard of the eagle with outstretched wings. June 20th, 1782, the eagle became the symbol of a new country. Because of its courage and its beauty, it was chosen to symbolize the new United States of America. The eagle became a prominent feature of the seal of state of the new republic. From its early beginning, the eagle has been used in many ways to symbolize the ideals of this country. Several states have the eagle on their state flags. You can find the eagle on the coins of America from the beginning to present day. The eagle has a prominent place in America, as in ancient Rome, as a symbol of power and authority. The emblems of the president, vice president, several members of the president's cabinet, and most branches of the armed forces center on the eagle. The Apollo 11 crew chose Eagle as the name of the lunar module that was to make history. And the words of Eagle Scout Neil Armstrong, Houston, tranquility base here. The eagle has landed, and man was on the moon. The appeal of the majestic eagle has been felt by every great people from prehistoric times to the present day. To the Egyptians, the eagle was the messenger of the gods and the sun, a symbol of eternal life. To the Romans, he was the carrier of Jupiter's thunderbolts and a sign of power. To American Indians, he stood as the incentive to valor and the pledge of victory. For us today, the eagle is the living symbol of all courageous and freedom-aspiring Americans. In 1911, following tradition as old as man himself, the Boy Scouts of America chose the eagle to symbolize the very highest in achievement. The Eagle Scout badge was designed in 1912. It was decided that a small silver eagle would be suspended from a tricolor ribbon of red, white, and blue. So it remains today. Through all history, the eagle has been the symbol of man's best. Now the eagle is the symbol of scouting's best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now have a Scout Spirit Story with Susie Molyneux.
Good evening. This is a Scout Spirit Story. This is a true story of a fierce battle in World War II, which happened on an island in the South Pacific Ocean somewhere. An American soldier was seriously wounded, and he was lying where he had fallen. The sound of gunfire stopped, and the surroundings quieted down. He heard someone's footsteps approaching him. A Japanese soldier who had a gun with a bayonet was standing over him when he opened his eyes. He thought that he was going to be killed by the Japanese soldier, and he fainted. After a while, he woke up. He found a white slip of paper on the sand by his side, and he put it in his pocket. He was carried on a stretcher to the Field Operations Aid Station soon after that. When he was put on the operating table, he remembered the slip of paper in his pocket, and he gave it to the doctor. It was a message from the Japanese soldier, and it was as follows. When I was about to kill you, you made the three-fingered scout salute. I am a scout is a brother. Therefore, I could not kill any person who lost the fighting spirit. I tended to your wound. Good luck. After the war, the American soldier and his father visited the Boy Scout headquarters in the United States and told this story. They donated money for the Boy Scouts to put up a monument to the scouting spirit. In 1952, Dr. Fennell, a BSA regional executive, came to inspect the Boy Scout movement of Japan from the U.S. headquarters and passed on this true story as a fine anecdote from the war. The American soldier's name is not known. The Japanese soldier was killed. This monument is to the unknown scout soldier. This is an example of Scout spirit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susie. We now have Mr. Richard Menera with the Eagle Scout Project.
Good evening. There are 7 requirements to achieve the rank of Eagle Scout. I am here to talk about requirement number 5. While a Life Scout, plan, develop, and give leadership to others in a service project helpful to any religious institution, any school, or your community. The project must benefit an organization other than Boy Scouting. A project proposal must be approved by the organization benefiting from the effort, your unit leader, your unit committee, and the council or district before you start. I was asked by Keval to be his Eagle coach in the spring of 2018. After meeting with Keval and he talked to various organizations, Keval decided on a water irrigation project at the Clinton Township Organic Community Garden within Bund Park. This would give its members closer access to water for their plants. Currently, there was only one spigot at the entrance to the garden. Members had to carry water 250 feet to their plots. Keval's project was to add 6 more at various locations within the garden. Keval spent the next several months going back to the garden, taking pictures, measurements, and talking to the chairperson, Mrs. Nancy Slota. After they agreed on the logistics, now came time to write his proposal and planning details. Keval would have to explain every step needed to perform his project, what tools, supplies, and materials would be needed, a cost estimate, and like every Eagle project, fundraising, how he was going to show leadership, address any safety issues or hazards, and how and where was he going to recruit help. Keval and I met for several months going over his design. Keval ran into problems getting his construction permit. But once that was resolved in the May of 2019, he was ready to start the actual work. Keval decided to wait to start his work days until after the troops Bahama sailing trip, which we both went on. In early August, Keval started his work days. And instead of telling you about the usual work, about every work day that he had in detail, I want to share Keval's perspective on how the project went from excerpts of his responses he wrote to the questions asked in his Eagle Workbook project, his final write-up. What went well? Keval got more volunteers than he expected, especially from the community garden members. He was able to assemble small teams to work on various tasks. The trencher that Keval rented dug much faster than predicted, but I'll talk more about that in what was challenging. After all the spigots were installed, the community garden member brought his Kubota tractor to fill in the dirt, which saved a lot of time. What was challenging? Removal of the wood chips and plastic that lined the walkways. This took longer than expected. On the morning of the second workday, Keval found out that the trencher he had reserved was broken and he had to find another one. After finding another one in South Jersey, gratefully Mr. J was able to drive down and pick it up. After Alec and I finished digging all the trenches, there was a lot of cave-ins that had to be manually dug back out. What significant changes did he make and why? Keval changed the layout of the piping system after seeing how long it took to remove the wood chips and plastic. By doing this redesign, it saved time and would allow the garden members to still access their plots. What was most rewarding about being a leader? Finishing the project and having a lot of the garden members thank me for the hard work that I had put in. What did you learn about leadership and how were your leadership skills further developed? You learned that people have different physical capabilities and that's okay. He just needed to delegate the work carefully. In summary, his project was completed in August of 2019. The project itself, Keval had 109 workers for a grand total of 430 man-hours to complete. This was way more than 180 man-hours in his proposal. And the cost of the project was $1,540. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seminara. We now have Nancy Slaughter's comments representing the Clinton Township Organic Garden that they're going to be read by Mira Rubenshek.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mira. I'm Keval's sister. So I'll be reading this. I'll be reading this speech by Nancy Slaughter, who is the president of the Clinton Township Community Garden since she couldn't be here today. My name is Nancy Slaughter, and I've been gardening at the Clinton Township Organic Community Garden since its inception in 2012. I've had the pleasure of running the community garden since 2016, and as we approach our 10-year anniversary, I look back upon our humble beginnings. There is no single contribution to our garden that has been as impactful and meaningful as Keval's Water System Eagle Scout project. When the garden began in 2012, our future was uncertain. We had a patch of land with a temporary fence and about 3 dozen garden members. There were many things that we did not have at that time. Most notably, we had no access to water for irrigation. Could you imagine growing a garden without water? It seems impossible, yet we tried our best to make it work. Over the course of the next 6 years, we drove water to the garden in our cars, in jugs and buckets, hoping we didn't hit a bump along the way that caused our precious water to spill out. We tried our hand at rainwater collection from a small shed, which barely gave us an inch or two in our barrel after a heavy downpour. We discovered a well on the property, but it was too old and no longer drew water. But we filled it from Bunt Park using hundreds of feet of hosing and a donated submersible water pump powered by a gardener's truck. We stored water in large plastic cubes where algae grew and clogged our spigots. The spigots popped off unexpectedly from time to time, causing the water to rush out, sometimes even drenching an unsuspecting gardener. We bought dozens of watering cans and garden carts to drag water to our plots. Did you know that water is very heavy? Over 8 pounds a gallon, but it seemed even heavier, especially during times of dry weather. We dreamed of an easier and more reliable way to water our crops. So I reached out to Mr. Neighbor at Troop 288 and shared my with him for an easier and more reliable way to water. I shared that this would be no small task, nor an easy one, and that it was too large of a project for the garden to take on by itself. We needed help and support of another community-minded, volunteer-led organization, and we were interested in working with an Eagle Scout candidate. Mr. Neighbor had a scout in mind. It took several meetings with Keval and his parents to hash out the details of the project and to ensure that this was the right project for Keval. This was not a decision to be made lightly. I enjoyed these meetings. Keval was engaged and interested in the project. I felt inspired after meeting a young man with quiet confidence, ambition, and such a supportive and kind family. My perspective on the project quickly grew from how it could improve the community garden to how it could benefit Keval during his journey as Eagle Scout and in his future, and how it represented a collaborative effort between 2 separate groups of volunteers that shared a common goal to benefit the community. As the planning of the project unfolded, we discovered together just how complex it would be to achieve success. There were many things to consider, like learning about how water systems worked and reaching out to local experts for advice and guidance, fundraising for materials and equipment, coordinating with the municipality, which involved approval of the project by township administration, permitting, codes, inspections, rounding up volunteers willing to give the hundreds of hours needed to pull this project off, factoring in every single safety aspect, communicating between the garden community, the scouts, and the volunteers. Every angle of the project was considered. Still, we couldn't have planned for the occasional unpleasant personality or malfunctioning equipment. Along the way, Kev gave this project the attention it deserved to make it a success. He carefully considered his approach, handled the unexpected obstacles calmly, and when he needed support, his family was right there to jump in and support him. I specifically remember the second workday of the project and the hurdles we had to overcome. The equipment we needed wasn't working, and a replacement was almost impossible to find, so our day got off to a late start. The trench caved in at several locations, undermining our efforts, and volunteer support could have been better. It was a discouraging day, and morale was running low, but Keval's calm and supportive leadership pulled us through these challenges to face another day, and I'm proud to share that the dream of a watering system for the organic community garden became a reality in 2019. Gardeners no longer need to struggle through the tedious task of watering their gardens. It's now a quick and easy pleasure to water. We can now spend that time focusing on other tasks or simply enjoying our gardens and the company of our gardening companions. Our crops are better for it too. Not a day goes by that we don't feel grateful for the watering system installed under Keval's leadership, and I personally enjoy sharing the story with new gardeners every year who always seem to gain a newfound appreciation of precious water by the time I'm through. I wish I could be here today to join in the celebration of Keval's accomplishment. This couldn't have been done by just anyone. It took Keval's confident approach, the kindness of his family, and the support of his fellow scouts and troop leaders to realize this project. The gardeners of the Clinton Township Community Garden and I will always be grateful.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Rubenshek. That was great. We will now have the presentation of the Eagle Award by our Scoutmaster, Chris Neighbor.
So this is the big moment, Keval. Would you and your parents please come stand here in front? Now, typically, we present the scout, and I get to present the scout their eagle patch. But Keval, you finished your project, and it got processed, and it disappeared. You went off to college. So I never got to present you with this patch. So, on behalf of myself and the troop, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, that's just one part of the presentation. The other is the beautiful Dangling Eagle Scout pin. And that honor of pinning that on you goes to your mother. Congratulations, Keval. Now, Keval, I have a pin here for you to present to your mother so that she may show the world that her son is an Eagle Scout. Another hug. And Keval, let us not forget your father and his contribution to your trail to Eagle. We have a pin here for you to present to him as well. All right, parents, you may be seated. Keval, you need to stand here for a little bit longer and be the center of attention. I'll ask Richard Seminara come forth to present the Eagle Charge to Keval.
Eagle Scout candidate, Keval Rubenshek. As a representative of the Washington Crossing Council, Troop 288, I welcome you to the Brotherhood of Eagle Scouts. Barely 4% of all the boys who enter scouting achieve what you have been recognized for today. The requirements are demanding but fair and requiring a desire to succeed, perseverance, and ability. Would all the Eagle Scouts in the audience please stand in front this time? Maybe in the front or on the sides. On the sides, not the back. Not too close. The Eagle Scout rank represents proficiency in all scouting skills. It represents a great deal of teamwork as a member and leader of a troop. You demonstrate the spirit of scouting by living the Scout oath and law. It also represents strength of character and years of hard work, persistence, and more importantly, it is indicative of what lies in the future as Scout grows into manhood. The Eagle Scout rank also testifies that a Scout has the understanding of his community and his nation, and most importantly, a willingness to become involved. I'm not here to talk about your past accomplishments, which are great, but of your future opportunities. Many of your fellow Eagle Scouts received their Eagle Awards several years ago, and though in those years, has continually enriched their lives. This experience is now yours. When you attend a scouting function, scouters will recognize you as a doer, and you will be standing as equal among leaders. Your Eagle Award will go far beyond scouting itself. When you apply for a job, Eagle Scout on your application helps. More than that, the things that you have done, the leadership and the character you have developed will stay with you and mean more than a piece of cloth and a certificate in a frame. You will have opportunities to be of service to others through your work and through scouting because you know what you can accomplish. In the years to come, you will casually meet men who are Eagles too, and there will be an instant bond where you have each shared a common experience. You each know how the other can be trusted as a friend and as a brother Scout. Your comradeship among Eagles extends throughout the nation, and yes, even around the world. For the rest of your life, Keval, you travel as a marked man, an Eagle Scout. Keval, I have the honor and privilege to give you your Eagle charge on this occasion of your elevation to the highest rank in scouting. You have been chosen worthy of the highest rank by the Boy Scouts of America and all who rejoice in your achievement. Your position, as you know, is one of honor and responsibility. You are a marked man. As an Eagle Scout, you have assumed the solemn obligation to do your duty to God, to country, and to your fellow Scouts, and to mankind in general. As you live up to your obligations, you will bring honor to yourself and to your brother Scouts. I charge you, Keval, to undertake your citizenship with solemn dedication, to be a leader, but lead only toward the best. Live up every task you do and every office you hold, to the highest level of service to God and to your fellow citizens. I further charge you to be among those who dedicate their skills and abilities to the common good. Build America on a solid foundation of clean living, honest work, unselfish citizenship, and reverence to God. Then, whenever others may do, you will leave behind your record of which every Scout may be justly proud. Keval, you will now rededicate yourself by repeating the Scout oath. Repeat it slowly as you stand before the three lighted candles representing the three parts of the Scout oath. Do you remember it? Right hand salute. Right hand.
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Keval, your conduct along the trail has been excellent. You have rededicated yourself to the principles of scouting, but one more thing is important, your future. As an Eagle Scout, you become a guide to other Scouts of lower rank. You become an example in your community. Remember that your actions are now a little more conspicuous and people will expect more of you. To falter in your responsibility will not only reflect upon you, but on your fellow Eagles and of all scouting. The torch you carry is not only yours, but it is ours also. Keval, I challenge you to enter this Eagle Brotherhood holding ever before you, without reservation, the ideals of honor and service. By the repetition of the Scout Eagle promise before your fellow Scouts, you will become an Eagle Scout. Though the words you use are similar to those of which you joined Scouting, they will mean more now than they could have meant at any time in the past. When you pledge yourself on your sacred honor, you will be sealing your eternal loyalty to the code of the Eagle Scout, using the same words which close the Declaration of Independence. Scout, parents, and guests, please rise. Keval, Scout sign, repeat after me. I affirm my allegiance. To the three promises of the Scout Oath. I thoughtfully recognize and take upon myself. The obligations and responsibilities. Of the rank of Eagle Scout. On my honor, I will do my best. To make my training an example. My rank and influence. Count strongly. For better scouting. For better citizenship. In my troop. In my community. And in my contacts with other people. I pledge this. To this I pledge my sacred honor. Two. Scouts, parents, you may be seated, and guests, you may be seated. By the authority vested in me by the National Court of Honor of the Boy Scouts of America, it is my privilege and pleasure to pronounce you an Eagle Scout. May the oath you have taken today remain engraved in your heart forever. Congratulations, Keval. I ask the... Go ahead. I ask that the Eagle Scouts' presence be among the first to congratulate you, our newest Eagle Scout, Keval V. Rubenshek. Chris, go first. Thank you. Congratulations. Sit down.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seminara. I'll now ask that Chris Neighbor come back for espresso presentation.
Keval, I have here your Eagle Scout brag book. Within this is all of the paperwork that you generated to get your project approved, along with the pictures of your work days. And there are letters of congratulations that have been solicited for you. You'll find former presidents, George Bush, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter have all responded. You will find a citation here from Tom Malinowski, along with a letter of congratulations. Members of the President's Cabinet have all issued other certificates or letters of congratulations. And we've even gone so far as to contact the president of your university, and he has sent his regards to you as well. I'd like to read an excerpt from a gentleman, a fellow Eagle Scout, though his was awarded to him in 1977. And he goes on to say, "Dear Keval, back in 1977, I got a letter from the President of the United States congratulating me on becoming an Eagle Scout. This letter was printed on thick, creamy paper with my name typed on the top, Gerald Ford's signature at the bottom, right next to the presidential seal. Very impressive. However, as I studied the president's signature and compared it with those at the bottom of identical letters he had sent to other Eagle Scouts in other troops, I came to the conclusion that I was not holding a personal letter from the President of the United States. I was holding a form letter. Don't get me wrong, it was a nice gesture, and I appreciate the sentiment. But decided then and there that I would, if I ever found myself in a position of sending out thousands of letters to Eagle Scouts everywhere, I wouldn't try to fool the recipient by making them think that they were actually getting something uniquely personal. After all, Keval, a scout is trustworthy. Whether the scout goes on to become President of the United States or the host of a show on cable television, which is why I want to be absolutely clear about the nature of this letter, why I did, in fact, write every word, I did not write it specifically to you." Okay? He then goes on to talk a little bit about form letters and so on. But he says at the end, "Do me a favor, Keval. Don't become the person that gives up and becomes a person who shoves his diploma around and shows it off to all to see. Don't become miserable, pompous, a pain in the butt with no friends, 2 ex-wives, and in a job that you hate. Don't become that person. Don't wait for the world to acknowledge your accomplishments. When you're finished with scouting, donate your uniform to the Salvation Army. In a few years, it's not going to fit anyway." Okay? Fold up your sash and stow it away somewhere private, along with all the other tokens that you have done so far. Then roll up your sleeves, get out into the world, and put what you've learned to use. Live the Scout law, remember the Scout oath, and remember, a Scout is clean, but not afraid to get dirty. Mike Rowe. So yes, it is a form letter, but it's actually one that has very good sentiment. So Keval, I present this to you on behalf of the troop, one that is very proud to do so, very pleased to have had you as a member of our group. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Neighbor. We now have parent remarks from Falguni Vidya and Alec Rubenshek.
So I will start. What makes a person extraordinary? Are extraordinary people already born that way? Did they get lucky with their parents, teachers, schools they've attended, or opportunities given?
Did their family's financial status play a role? Were they inspired by others who have achieved greatness? All of these factors contribute to the development and potential success of young people around the world, but does it make them extraordinary? I'll come back to that question a bit later. When Keval was a few years old, he was fascinated by all types of vehicles, from fast cars and construction machinery to motorcycles and 54-foot tractor-trailers. As we drove by his newest subject of fascination on a highway, he exclaimed in excitement, "Whoa, big truck, fast car, huge bus," etc. I was convinced he'll become either a race car driver or an owner of the car parts store. As he had started second grade, a neighbor, Mick Hen, had asked if Keval would be interested in attending an orientation meeting with his son, Sean, to learn about Cub Scouts at Patrick McGarren School. Personally, since I grew up in the Soviet Union, I have not experienced, nor have I known anyone who has gone through Cub Scouting. Of course we went, and he loved the organized activities, the campouts, the service projects, or simply hanging out with the boys his age, and of course the merit badges. Never have I thought that his interest in scouting would carry him through the rest of his schooling and beyond. As he became a Boy Scout, his interest and determination to make it through the program has increased. When he returned from his first long camping trip at the Trexler camp, I asked him what he enjoyed most about his experience there. His response was freedom to move around without restriction. He has gained confidence, fortitude, ability to express himself, and rely on his skills to care for his basic needs. Over the years in Boy Scouting, Keval had many experiences serving others who needed help. Food drives, trail maintenance, book drives, recycling efforts, serving food, etc. He had the appreciation for seniors with limited capabilities and what his grandparents were experiencing when he was deciding on the Eagle Project. Keval had a choice of two projects, one to fix a trail in Echo Hill Park, and the one that he ultimately chose. His decision to select the much harder, more complex waterline in the garden project was based on the potential to directly benefit senior gardeners for years to come. And since Keval wanted to pursue engineering, he also felt the waterline project would be a great training opportunity for him. At the beginning of my speech, I've raised the question about what being extraordinary means. The American Psychology Today sponsored research in 2015 on this subject. Being extraordinary isn't reserved for the rich, the famous, the powerful, the privileged. Extraordinary people exist within even the most seemingly ordinary lives. They are the ones with the knack for living genuinely and who inspire us to attempt to do the same. We can all name extraordinary people who have touched us: a teacher who made us feel seen, a relative who helped us believe in our dreams, a friend who created a circle of acceptance wide enough for all. Those we deem extraordinary can't be narrowed to a single profile, but their lives are likely to include 5 characteristics. Number 1, focus on the things that matter. Numerous studies have shown that material possessions do not ultimately make us happy. The extraordinary person knows it's the intrinsic qualities that bring true satisfaction. The extraordinary people seem to know instinctively the folly of joining the crowd on a hamster wheel. Instead, they're content to keep their focus on being rather than having. Number 2, kindness. You've all read stories about school crossing guards who are honored by their entire communities. We all know people like this. They're special because they have the gift of making others feel special. And the nice thing about kindness, it works both ways. It's great to be on the receiving end, but multiple studies confirm it feels even nicer to do kind things for others. Number 3, willingness to be seen as imperfect. Those who are willing to reach for their extraordinary understand that criticism and rejection are the price we sometimes pay for trying, that we all have fear, and that defeat doesn't equal unworthiness. This willingness to be vulnerable gives them the freedom to pursue their dreams. Number 4, an ability to connect. The only thing that really matters in life are your relationships with other people. Extraordinary people understand this. That's why they make others a priority. They're the ones who remember our names, ask us questions, and care about the answers, and leave us feeling heard and valued. And number 5 is joyfulness. We spend our lives aiming for happiness, but how many of us really let in when it arrives? If you ever felt your heart swell with joy as you look at a loved one only to instantly imagine tragedy befalling them, or received a promotion only to worry that your company's faith had been misplaced, the antidote reaction is gratitude, as the extraordinary ones among us know. I believe that we all have the capacity to be extraordinary, and that today we celebrate Keval's achievement for the highest honor in Boy Scouting as a testament to the human spirit. After all, the idea of landing on the moon started with just an idea. We each owe it to ourselves, our families, our communities, to teach our children that they're born extraordinary and their lives have great impact on people around them. I wanted to thank the adult leadership of Troop 288, its leader, Chris, Rich Seminara, Linda and Rick Jason, Art Dunn, Aaron Wilsey, Chuck Brooks, Susie, Charlie, and many, many others, and parents that had a huge impact on Keval's development. I wanted to thank you, the audience, for making today special for Keval and us, and let this new year that is upon us bring us all closer to one another. Happy New Year.
So just wanted to say a few words. I did print a speech, and I don't think I can get through it. So I'm going to try to say as much as I can. Hopefully don't break down. So I wanted to start with, I want to thank you all for being here today. It means a lot to us. As Alec said, when we came to this community, it was, Alec came from Soviet Union. We came from India, and we don't even know what Boy Scouts is. And for us to come here, and through Kelly Strauss and Jason, who joined Troop 288, we started with PAC 190. And through that, it was about being around a family where there were high discipline, high values, and being in a community which reverberated with what we knew of as part of our faith and as part of our experience. So we were able to see that. And through that, we went from PAC 190 to Troop 288. And I had Kelly and Dawn being my navigators, because I didn't know about what to bring, what each badge meant, where do we check each badge and make sure that they're done. But because of parents like you, through Chris and his leadership, feeling inclusive, we felt very different coming here, because we do represent, between the two of us, a family of refugee, which I'll talk to a little bit, and a family of immigrants, two different faiths. And here we are in an amazing church. And this couldn't have been possible without the inclusiveness of this family that has become a part of us, this Troop 288. From all the parents, all the leaders, and all the scouts, it was possible for us to belong and be able to support Keval through this process. There's so many stories to share. There are stories of Trexler camp where, didn't know what it was about. And Aaron pulling me to the side and giving me comfort that my boy will be okay. And he will eat, he will not get lost in the jungle, and he will come back in one piece. And Keval, after going to several Trexler camps, he did come back and became a person that was much bigger, a person who, he grew, he discovered himself, and that couldn't have been possible with us there. So after that, I remember 2 other occasions, the Frontiers Camp. All I know is I was told what happens at Frontiers Camp stays at Frontiers Camp. I don't know what that means, but all I know is that when he came back, when Keval came back, he was transformed. He learned about rituals. He learned about tradition. He shared an amazing badge with Ryan. That's Ryan. Where in the middle of the night, in the darkness, in the middle of the night, in a tarp, they had to spend the whole night out. And on that night, it rained. And the two made it through. And thank God I didn't know about this beforehand, because I don't think I could have handled it. And the third is the Eagle Scout Project. We talked a lot about the Eagle Scout Project here. But what I have to say is that if it wasn't for this community, if it wasn't for Rich, if it wasn't for Rick, it wasn't for Chris, it wasn't for all the leaders that showed up, or the scouts that showed up, or the family and friends who showed up. And it became bigger than we planned for it to be, but it wouldn't have been possible without the spirit and love and of the troop here. With that said, I want to share two quotes, and then as you walk in, you will see that there are some family pictures. So if it's okay, I'd like to share a tribute, because you don't know where you're going until you know where you've come from, and that matters. So I'm going to start with two quotes. These quotes are important because my father, when we came to this country, was very big on reading autobiographies of leaders, and one of them was JFK. So Dad, and my parents are here, my dad and my mom, so it's a great honor that they're here. The first one is that ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And that was about, you always have to do things that are bigger than yourself for causes that are about more than yourself. That could be in a home, that could be in a town, it could be for your country, it could be for your colleague or your friend. Second quote is about everything you've ever wanted is sitting on the other side of fear. So everything you ever wanted is sitting on the other side of fear. And I share those because I want to share the story of Keval's grandparents and great-grandparents. I'll share the refugee story first. And please correct me if I forget. So Alec is from the old Soviet Union, and Keval's great-grandfather fought in World War II against the Nazis. And while he was out fighting the war on the German front, his great-grandmother had two kids, and their town was being bombed, and she had to leave with her kids and then come back someday to be able to resettle again with her family. By the time she came back, Keval's great-grandfather passed on the front. But with that said, it showed that no matter what life brings you, your wings sprout, you become that, in that ordinary, you become extraordinary, and then you have a chance to be bigger than yourself and do what you would have been impossible. Decades later, his grandmother did something similar. Being in USSR, as part of, when you turned 17, you had to go to Afghanistan for war. And for living in Russia, even in socialist times, even if it felt like everyone was being treated equally, people were not. And so Alec's mom saw the discrimination that she went through, and her son went through, and so made a very difficult decision to ask his father to give permission for Alec and her to leave, to come to the US, which was a big deal at that time. It involved, in that moment, Alec knew, and his mom knew, that was the last time they were going to see their father, his father, because you were not allowed to come back. Then, after that, she had a, so I don't know if I said this, but it was the US who gave refuge to Alec and his family. And so his mom and Alec went through the refugee trip, the refugee journey through Europe, through Austria, through Italy, and landed in New York City. And this wasn't the New York City of Madison Avenue and Park Avenue. This was in New York City, where it was the grid of New York City, but in that grid there was gratitude because there were people who came and who helped to settle in. And with that comes a foundation for one part of Keval's soaring wings, that part of your wings and your story of the refugee family talks about how strong it will soar and how strong that foundation is as you fly. And the second part of the wing comes from my side of the family. It's an immigrant story. And Keval may find this interesting because what he said when he came from Trexel Camp was that he liked the idea of feeling independent, being able to be himself. And this goes back to his great-grandfathers. Both of his great-grandfathers did not do what all the other grandfathers at that time did. In the Indian tradition, usually as a son gets married, they're part of the extended family, and they did not leave their town. They stayed in that town. But Keval's grandfather, who happened to be a doctor, because we come from a lineage of doctors, was given a grant to go to another state, which is like going to, let's say, Canada or even Scotland. It's like going to a different country in India. So he had to leave, and he was given a grant to set up a hospital for the nomads, which were the Bill tribes of India. And these nomads traveled through the northern India, and they did trade, but they didn't have good healthcare service. So that inspired him to stay there. He built a bigger hospital. He took care of these tribes. They didn't have money. Their way of payment was through fruits and foods and terracotta pots. But that left a mark on him, because until his passing days, the chiefs of those tribes still came by with crates of fruit and terracotta pots, just because they remembered that what your great-grandfather did was way beyond and above and beyond what was asked of him to do. Another grandfather at the same age as Keval, in 19, left and went to Africa. And there he started his journey. And his journey was to make life better for his family, but also to give back to his town. And he did quite well there through hardship, and he was able to send money back to his town to create schools, to create opportunities for others, for different crafts, and then but he lost it all because of Idi Amin. And if anyone knows the history of the story, but he went back to India and started all over again. And it's really about what you were saying. It's not about what you make and what you have, because they lost all their wealth and their property and all. It's about what you do in those tough times, and you step up and you move on and go forward. So that's the other part of your wings. And today, my parents are here because my parents did the same thing. They could have easily stayed in the comfort of being around family, doing the things that were more comfortable, but they came here with 3 children from the age of 4 to 9 in their late 20s, and they settled in New York City. And we saw how hard they both worked. They showed us that beyond just working hard, it's really about what you do in the community you're in, and they helped build bridges between the Indian community and the local community. And through that, we volunteered, and we were out working almost every weekend. But with that said, it was about knowing that you have 2 spans of your wings that are built on a foundation that's going to allow you to soar. And the breadth at which you soar, the height at which you soar, are all on you. And I have great faith and hope and love and pride that you're going to be extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you very much for both of those wonderful speeches. Now we have remarks from the Eagle Scout himself. Keval, if you could come up.
Thank you, everyone, for attending my Eagle Court of Honor. I'm glad everyone who's here was able to attend. I know it's right around the holiday time, so a lot of people weren't able to make it, but I'm glad you guys could. I wanted to extend a special thank you to a few members of the troop who helped me more than they needed to during the Eagle process and Scout process overall, and just to people who made the scouting experience more enjoyable overall. So my first mentor pin I want to give is to my Scoutmaster, Mr. Neighbor. From the first time I interacted with the troop at Webelos Weekend in 2011 or 2012, he always came to my culinary aid. Since I was the only vegetarian in the troop for my whole 7-year experience, I needed to have special treatment and a separate menu at each camp out. Mr. Neighbor made that possible. From stuffed zucchini to grilled portobellos, he always made sure the other scouts were jealous of my meals. I had the best tasting food and constant priority when waiting in line for food. But other than just food, he always chose the best camping trips and took into account all of the scouts' opinions. At our patrol leader conferences, we would all contribute ideas, and when the schedules finally came out, we would see our proposed campouts incorporated in. The Bahamas trip was a great example of this. In 2018, he had the entire troop, parents included, vote on 3 different trips for the summer of 2019 to see which one majority of people wanted and which would logistically work out the best. Bahamas ended up being the undisputed top choice, and because of that, I was able to have one of the most memorable final trips with the troop, my last summer scout. So thank you, Mr. Neighbor, for always making campouts a more enjoyable experience. My second mentor pin is for my Eagle Scout advisor, Mr. Seminara. Without him, most of this project would not have been possible. Whenever I needed to meet, he was always available and would make time for me. When it came to technical knowledge and project planning, he used his engineering experience to help me overcome solutions in the planning process. These were great lessons that have helped me develop my own skill set within my pursuit of an engineering degree. In addition to aiding me in the planning process, he showed up to nearly every workday and contributed greatly to the physical labor of the project. Not only with my project, but every other Eagle project, service project, or troop event I attended, he would always be there helping out and committing his time to helping others. So thank you for all your commitment and help throughout this long process, and I couldn't have asked for a better Eagle advisor. My third and final mentor pin is for a man who introduced me to my favorite scouting experience, Mr. Jason, who I don't believe is here right now, but Mr. Jason, back in 2014, somehow talked me into going to Frontiers Camp up in Vermont, when I initially never wanted to go. I heard from fellow scouts about just a bunch of hicks, and it wasn't for fun for them. But the way Mr. Jason described it made those statements seem quite opinionated. So I decided to give the camp a shot, and I absolutely loved my first year. Consequently, I proceeded to go back every year for the rest of my scouting youth, and even came back as a staff member. Throughout my time there, I was the only vegetarian scout, yet somehow was still able to earn my hunter's license, trapper's license, fishing license, and more, just for the fun of it. From throwing hatchets to shooting black powder rifles and partaking in camp-wide wrestling games, this camp contributed to some of my most memorable scouting experiences, and for that I have Mr. Jason to thank. And in addition, he's a really kind man, and like Mr. Seminara said in his description of the Eagle Project, with the trencher, or towing the trencher back, and just a lot of kind and nice memories with Mr. J. So my third mentor pin and final one is for him.
All right. Thank you, Keval. That was great. So, real quick, I'm going to lead us in the benediction. Dear God, an Eagle Scout Court of Honor marks the end of one journey and the commitment to another, a commitment to better scouting where all may participate, a commitment to better citizenship, and a commitment to being an example of leadership to all. Bless all of Keval's future endeavors. Walk with him him wherever his life may take him, and give him your strength, compassion, your wisdom, and your love. May all of us gathered here be committed